What if the greatest adventure ever written wasn't just a myth? What if the monsters, lost islands, and impossible journeys in the Odyssey were inspired by real places, real disasters, and real civilizations that disappeared thousands of years ago? For nearly 3,000 years, Homer's epic has been treated as one of history's greatest works of fiction. But archaeologists, historians, and geologists have uncovered clues suggesting that parts of Odysseus's incredible journey may have been rooted in the Bronze Age world of the ancient Mediterranean. Now, as Christopher Nolan brings the Odyssey to the big screen, one question becomes more fascinating than ever. How much of this legendary story was actually inspired by real history? The answer may completely change how you see one of humanity's oldest epics. Around the 8th century BC, a poet known as Homer composed the Odyssey. Whether Homer was a single individual or a tradition of storytellers remains debated, but the epic became one of the foundations of Western literature. The story follows Odysseus, king of Ithaca, as he struggles to return home after the Trojan War. His voyage is filled with cyclopes, sirens, witches, sea monsters, and angry gods. At first glance, it feels entirely mythical. Yet beneath the layers of legend lies a surprisingly recognizable world. The ships are Bronze Age ships. The weapons match archaeological discoveries. The palaces resemble those excavated across Greece. The political landscape reflects the network of Mycenaean kingdoms that flourished between roughly 1600 and 1100 BC. Rather than inventing a fantasy world from nothing, Homer appears to have woven together memories of a civilization that had already vanished centuries before his poems were written. Long before classical Greece, the Eastern Mediterranean was dominated by the Mycenaean civilization. Centered at fortified palaces such as Mycenae, Pylos, Tiryns, and Thebes, these kingdoms were ruled by powerful elites who controlled trade routes stretching from Egypt to Anatolia and beyond. Archaeological excavations have revealed massive stone walls, richly decorated palaces, sophisticated administrative systems recorded in Linear B script, and impressive craftsmanship in gold, bronze, and ivory. This was not a primitive society. It was an interconnected international world. Many scholars believe Odysseus himself, if inspired by a historical figure at all, would have belonged to this Mycenaean age. Even the palace described in the Odyssey resembles the layout of excavated Mycenaean royal complexes, complete with a central hall known as the Megaron. Then something extraordinary happened. Around 1200 BC, much of the Bronze Age world unraveled. Within a few generations, many major palaces were destroyed, trade networks collapsed, writing disappeared from Greece for centuries. Cities were abandoned. Historians still debate the exact causes. Possible factors include earthquakes, prolonged drought, famine, internal conflict, invasions, and the movements of the mysterious sea peoples. Rather than one single catastrophe, it may have been a cascade of interconnected crises. To later generations, this prosperous world became a distant memory. Stories survived where written records did not, and those stories gradually evolved into legend. Did the Trojan War actually happen? No archaeological discovery has confirmed every detail of Homer's account, but the ancient city of Troy was very real. Excavations at Hisarlik in modern-day Turkey have uncovered multiple layers of settlement built over thousands of years. One phase, dating to the late Bronze Age, shows evidence of destruction and conflict during a period broadly consistent with the traditional era associated with the Trojan War. Most historians do not believe Homer's poem is a literal historical record. Instead, many think it preserves echoes of real conflicts that became embellished over centuries of oral storytelling. The heroes may have changed, the battles may have grown larger, the gods entered the narrative, but beneath the poetry, fragments of history may still remain. Perhaps the most memorable parts of the Odyssey are its monsters: the Cyclops, Scylla and Charybdis, the Sirens. At first, they seem purely fantastical, yet many researchers have suggested these creatures may symbolize genuine dangers faced by Bronze Age sailors. Scylla and Charybdis resemble the deadly hazards of navigating narrow sea straits with powerful currents. The Sirens could reflect dangerous rocky coastlines where sailors were lured by calm-looking waters before crashing into hidden reefs. The land of the Lotus Eaters may preserve memories of unfamiliar cultures encountered during long voyages. Rather than recording literal monsters, the poem may transform natural dangers into unforgettable characters. That made them easier to remember and harder to forget. Was Ithaca really Odysseus's home? One of the greatest mysteries concerns Ithaca itself. A modern Greek island still bears that name. However, scholars continue to debate whether it perfectly matches Homer's descriptions. Nearby islands such as Kefalonia have also been proposed as possible inspirations. Archaeologists have uncovered impressive Mycenaean remains across the Ionian Islands, suggesting the region was home to important Bronze Age communities. Some discoveries have even been suggested as possible candidates for Odysseus's palace. These proposals remain debated rather than universally accepted. For now, the search continues, and perhaps that uncertainty is part of the story's enduring appeal. The genius of the Odyssey is not simply that it tells an adventure. It tells an adventure grounded in universal human experience: war, loss, longing, temptation, identity, the desire to return home. These emotions remain as powerful today as they were 3,000 years ago. This emotional realism is one reason the poem has endured across cultures and generations. Whether or not every location existed exactly as described is almost beside the point. The emotional journey feels authentic because it reflects timeless human struggles. Christopher Nolan has often explored stories that blend spectacle with profound human questions: memory, identity, sacrifice, time, and survival. The Odyssey offers all of these themes while drawing on one of the oldest surviving literary traditions in history. Rather than simply adapting an ancient myth, Nolan has the opportunity to present audiences with a world where history and legend constantly overlap. A world where archaeological discoveries illuminate the past, but mystery still remains. That balance between evidence and imagination is exactly what has kept the Odyssey alive for nearly 3 millennia. Perhaps that is the greatest secret hidden inside the Odyssey. It isn't simply the story of one man's voyage home. It is the memory of an entire civilization, a civilization that rose to extraordinary heights, collapsed into darkness, and survived not through monuments alone, but through stories passed from one generation to the next. Every time we read Homer or watch a new adaptation, we aren't just revisiting a myth. We are listening to echoes of the Bronze Age, preserved across thousands of years. And maybe that's why the Odyssey continues to captivate us. Because somewhere between archaeology and legend, between history and imagination, lies a story that refuses to be forgotten.